What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, the anticipation for Nintendo to have a Direct in September has been pretty high at this point, especially with all the rumors going around. Well, now, over the weekend, we had a bit more backing for all of that, with one very reliable source at this point chiming in and even backing up exactly when this Direct will be, which we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about Knight Silksong because we are in release week, and we had some pretty good news get out there with a big update, and also we saw the Steam charts go crazy, which I'm sure Team Cherry is quite happy to see. And we also have Lost Soul aside because the reviews went live, and well, it's about, I think, what a lot of people were expecting after hearing some of the previous posts on. Anyway, we'll go over that here today. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawn Wave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're gonna start today with just a random, almost shadow drop, I guess. I didn't know that this was necessarily dropping, especially not from the implicit conversions who they've been doing the releases with Sony for PlayStation Plus Premium, with a lot of those PlayStation 2 releases, all of that. Well, now they have a release that's just going to multiple platforms. This you can see over on Gamatsu, where they say Limited Run Games, in cooperation with Square Enix, has released action-adventure game Fear Effect for PS5, PS4, Switch, and PC via Steam for $9.99. So it's not priced bad at $10. Now, this launched for the first time back in 2000 on the original PlayStation, and I remember it was being heavily advertised in several different magazines. That was a big thing for Fear Effect, with kind of the cel-shaded aesthetic, and also the main characters they placed very strategically, we'll say, in those big magazine spreads. But this is the first time it's been ported to new platforms really since then, and it was implicit conversions who did it. Now, RGT did mention, I think during the podcast, but definitely off the podcast even, that he had purchased it kind of on a whim, and it's very bare bones. So keep that in mind going into it. I don't even know if that much in terms of like doing any kind of resolution bump, anything's really been done to it. So the $10 certainly reflects that aspect. I mean, it's pretty cheap. It's an interesting game from an interesting time period in gaming, and might be worth checking out if you're interested. Also, PAX West did happen over the weekend, and there are a lot of demos that were happening throughout the show floor, especially on the Switch too. One of those was done off the show floor, and there was no footage that was allowed for it, and that's Star Wars Outlaws. And I am very curious to see how this one turns out, because I still having a hard time believing that it's going to come out in any decent shape. And in fact, GVG had a chance to play it and sort of went over some of their thoughts. I believe Steve was doing this in a video and mentioned it wasn't great. And a lot of that came back to, one, the demo itself, the level, was just done in like an enclosed base area. If you know that game, well, that leads number two. The open world or open zone areas weren't on display, and that is the part that I'm most curious about. Either way, though, even the enclosed spaces that they were trying to sneak through and did some blaster battles wasn't going great. The frame rate was all over the place, and it sort of looked like they just tried to just stuff the game into the Switch 2, and it's not going over well. So hey, we're gonna find out, I guess, that somebody's gonna take the plunge and try it out. And hey, if I can happen to get a review code or some kind of code from Ubisoft to try it out, I will, and I'll just do an hour-long video just going over it, just unedited, and we'll see how it holds up. Oh, and we did have a delay that was announced. We can see this over on their official account. Yeah, it's for Mortal Kombat 2, not a game, the movie. All right, so it's moving from its late 2025 release into May 15th, 2026, like a 7 or 8 month delay on this one. Okay, it says Tuesday unlocks the next level, but hey, you know what? Certainly is a video game movie. It's taking after video games. They get delayed all the time. People aren't really sure why this movie got delayed, other than, well, it could be maybe placing it at a better time. Some are saying in a year, for around when people would be most likely to go to the movies. Maybe they need more time to work on the visual effects or something, as well, the reception to the trailer has been very, very good online. So some are wondering if WB said, hold on, let's spend a little more time on this because we may have a hit on our hand. And that could be it. We'll see. But either way, it's not coming out this year. We're looking towards May of 2026 now. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and a Direct that has been anticipated for a bit now, going into Tokyo Game Show in September. And while that's traditionally what Nintendo does, they didn't do it last year. but last year was kind of a strange in-between time period for them, where we all sort of knew that they were moving on internally to the Switch 2, and a lot of their developers had also moved their development towards the next generation system. And we're still, while we are seeing games like Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, which I think has really done well showing off the Switch 2, we're also kind of hanging out waiting for Nintendo to show up with one of the big titles, like a 3D Mario, a 3D Zelda. You could even say, Animal Crossing, that's a big title there, but things that would work to stress the system more. And even though Metroid Prime 4 is a cross-gen game, it's using tons of features for the new hardware. So while we're hanging out waiting, we start hearing about these different rumors around a Nintendo Direct taking place in September. But then we got down to the day of, it seems to be September 12th. At least that was according to Switchforce, who was then backed up by VGC. Still, there is one source that's been pretty good, especially with the Switch 2 run so far, and that's Nate the Hate. And well, he decided to put something out there yesterday. In fact, it made headlines immediately. You can see this over on My Nintendo News saying Nate Drake, Nintendo Direct in second week of September 2025. In fact, this is what he said. Yes, there is a Nintendo Direct in September, when the second week of the month, in the latter half on or around September 11th or September 12th. So again, this blew up online. People are like, okay, there we go. Now we know kind of exactly when it is. And I think September 12th does make sense. I think he's saying 11th or 12th because there are time zone differences, and who knows where Nintendo's necessarily targeting for maybe what they're saying internally and how that's going to apply to different regions. I figure September 12th, just in the US, it'll probably be in the morning, I would like to think it's not 6 a.m. West Coast time, because that's rough if you're getting up for that over there. But let's just say it's 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. on the West Coast on Friday, September 12th, which is an interesting one because it's not usual. We already went over all that. There's 8 total directs that have happened, mixing in game specific or a theme park or something that's happened on a Friday. That's not common for Nintendo, but also remember, that's the day before the 40th anniversary from Mario, and it seems like it would make sense for them to show up and also talk about that anniversary for Mario mixed in with the Direct, although they would probably want to have some sort of pre-recorded presentation or some fun little event that they can put out on YouTube, like they've done previously with these different Mario Day things. Just have something to throw up there scheduled for the 13th, but otherwise, you can still mix some kind of big announcement in here for Mario, even like a remake, as some have wondered, maybe a remake or remaster of Mario Galaxy 2. That would work in beautifully there, just ahead of that Mario anniversary. But I think many of us are at this time going, okay, let's get the show on the road here for Metroid Prime 4. Come on, Nintendo. 2017, this game was announced. We're still waiting. We have a release date for Grand Theft Auto 6 before we have a release date for Metroid Prime 4. And while I think Metroid Prime 4 will come out first, clearly, because it's supposed to be lined up for this year, we're still looking at release date for GTA 6, no release date for Metroid Prime 4. It just looks weird. So that, I think for a lot of us going into it, is clearly first and foremost, when's the date? When's it coming out? I think it's going to end up probably end of October, beginning of November, slotted somewhere in there. Last week of October, last week of November. It makes sense. It fits in, I think, to their lineup, and they would still have some time to get Metroid Prime 2 and 3 out. Probably similar to how they worked with Pikmin, where 1 and 2 just shadow dropped and then they did a physical copy later. Wouldn't shock me if they did that here. Otherwise, though, Age of Imprisonment, that needs a release date, and then you can kind of look around and go, okay, Nintendo, what can you surprise us with, right? That's the big thing. Let's see some really cool titles that could be a bit further off, but even some things coming out not only for the rest of 2025, but also to kickstart 2026 a bit. So, it's wide open for Nintendo. They can do all kinds of cool stuff, and here's hoping they have some things they can deliver with here, specifically, though, for the Switch 2. But there you have it. Seems like we're looking towards the end of next week, specifically September 12th, for a Direct, and I figured Nintendo will announce it 1 or 2 days early, so we'll start looking around probably Wednesday of next week. Next up, let's talk about Hollow Knight Silksong. It's finally happening this week. I feel like it's been years and years of people spamming the live chat of all these different state of plays, Nintendo Directs, Xbox Developer Directs, Indie Worlds, summer showcases, just Hollow Knight Silksong constantly over there. But finally, we're at the finish line. On September 4th, it will release, and it'll also go into Game Pass, so you can download it and play it there, Xbox Play Anywhere, on your PC and everything, sure. But the question has remained, how much is this thing going to cost? If you're just going to buy it on any of these other platforms. Well, we seem to have a price point through multiple avenues, and it is kind of strange that we still didn't really know what it was up until this point, but we can see this over on D-Labs. First, though, we had this screenshot that got out there from GameStop, go figure, but this was for the Switch version of it, or Switch 2 version. $19.99 is what they had listed. To go from there, though, D-Labs is also able to report that on Steam, it is $19.99. Now, they have a bunch of different regions here where it'll vary based on currency and exchange rate, but for the most part, we're looking at a price of $20 for Hollow Knight Silksong, which is very good. I mean, I'm trying to think of what was the price I was expecting. I was kind of thinking $30 just for Hollow Knight Silksong, all the hype around it. People would have bought it anyway, but they're going 20? That's pretty good, I think anyway. I mean, I don't think Hollow Knight, I'm trying to remember how much that was when it first came out. I feel like it was $15 or $20. So maybe they're sticking with it. Like, hey, that worked for us. We sold millions and millions of copies. We're not some massive AAA conglomerate or something. It's Team Cherry. It's a few people. They're thinking, hey, we sell a couple 100,000 copies of this thing. We're set. That's awesome. That is kind of how it used to be in gaming back in the day, right? It's like, oh, if you sell 200, 300,000 copies, you're greenlighting the next sequel. So, I mean, that's great that they are doing that thing where that it doesn't feel like they're trying to get one over on the consumer who, let's face it, if they just showed up and said it's $50, a lot of people would have been like, okay. But now it's $20. It's pretty good. So what I noticed, though, is that a lot of people online, like on social media, are talking about how they're going back and playing Hollow Knight right now before Silksong comes out. And I took a look over on SteamDB. Check this out. This is an all-time high for Team Cherry with Hollow Knight on Steam, which is one of the public-facing platforms we can actually check. Yeah, I noticed it was up over 70,000 concurrent players at one point, just from Hollow Knight. So they got a boost, they said, from Hollow Knight Silksong when it was first announced. Now they're getting a boost from the game with its release date, because people feel like they need to go back and play Hollow Knight, which, I mean, sure, it's a fun game. There you go, you can play it. But then also we have the release, the pricing, all this stuff is making headlines and making people run back, either buy it for the first time or load it back up so they can play back through it. So it's almost like Team Cherry has figured out this infinite money glitch right now. And anytime they mention Hollow Knight Silksong, especially for the last several years, as they told us they sold like 12 or 13 million copies of this game from then on. If they just keep announcing and talking about Silksong, they just keep selling copies. So it makes me think that, yes, Silksong is going to do incredibly well for them, especially at this $20 price point. It's impulse buy territory close to it for a lot of people, especially if you've been looking around the market and go, wow, games come out at $70 or $80 and here's $20. Yeah, I'll go with that and probably get, 30, 40, 50, 60 hours out of it. There's a ton of bosses, a lot of content apparently. We'll see when it comes out, if it's able to live up to the high expectations that are set. But at $20, it's gonna feel hard to. It's gonna be hard to feel like you didn't get your money's worth. Is what I'm saying there. So we'll see when it comes out on September 4th. Next up, let's talk about Yooka Replaylee. We did get the release date on it, and we got pricing, and we got information around the physical copy. Which, just not to keep anyone in suspense, it will be on a full cartridge for the Switch 2, coming in at $50. But that's the same price across the board on all platforms. For physical. I wonder what that's about with the all-on cartridge Switch 2 game for Yooka Replaylee, and why other companies are. Either way, if it's marketing, it's working for them, as a lot of people are talking about it, and I noticed that it went up to like number 2 on the Amazon game charts for sales with the Switch 2. But we have a lot of information to also go over, along with the trailer that they had released. The game is coming out October 9th. The digital price is $30. The physical price is $50. So if you don't care about physical, guess what? You get to save $20. However, they do say that there's exclusive retail goodies with the physical copy. So I assume there'll be stuff inside of the game, like when you open it up, maybe stickers or patches, or maybe, hey, if there's a manual in there, they got something here. It'd be really cool if it's in a slipcover. That would be awesome. Anyway, if you already own the game on the same platform, this is important to note. So let's say you have it on the PS4 or the Xbox One or the Switch One, but you've already gone up to the next system, the Switch 2, the PS5, or the Xbox Series. You will get 30% off of it, All right, so even if you have it on the previous generation, you get that 30% discount on the next generation version of it. That's, of course, for digital there, where it can detect that you own the game and then give you that upgrade. Now, they also went over a ton of different features. There's a refined story, there's upgraded graphics, there's new arcade, new collectible currency that they have in the game. You can build, they say build your own play style. Tonics are back with all new flavors. With the option to equip multiple game-changing enhancements, you can truly customize your play style. Okay. Also mentioned navigating the world easily, revamped controls and camera, and a dreamy orchestral soundtrack. So, I mean, I like Yooka. Yooka was fine for what it was back then, but it definitely felt forgettable as to what they thought would be this incredible 3D platformer. This just feels like a do-over for them. And I'll give it a look. I mean, I have the game, like I said, on multiple platforms, so if nothing else, I could take advantage of the 30% discount and go up to the PS5 or the Switch 2 or the Xbox. This is a situation, though, where I think I'm going to buy it on the Switch 2 because it is all in the cartridge, and I've already said I'm not interested in game key cards, so I have skipped out on, unless it was for a video, I've skipped out on the game key card. So I think I just have Street Fighter. So I would like to get a game for my Switch 2 collection, and here we have Yooka Replaylee. So yeah, I'll buy it physically there. Maybe I'll get it digitally on the PlayStation and take advantage of the 30% discount and be able to compare the two versions at that time, PS5 versus Switch 2. But yeah, I'll give Yooka-Laylee a Replaylee later on this year in October when it releases, and we'll see how it turns out. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about Lost Soul Aside, as it did release last week on Friday the 29th. I did a video after I picked up the game. I said, you know what, let's just play an hour. I'll post it online and people can see for themselves what this game is exactly. And there were certainly some moments in that, from some very weird set pieces where a kid gets kicked through a crate, to some of the worst voice acting I think I've ever seen in a video game, and some very static faces that reminded me of the doll faces from Star Ocean, that like a few years ago when that released. It's all mixed up in what's crazy to me, but a pretty good action style. Like the gameplay, the combat isn't bad, but it's not groundbreaking, so it doesn't make up for some of the worst presentation aspects I've seen in a game. Anyway, we have some reviews starting to come out, and well, we can see over on Metacritic, currently sitting at a 57 on the PS5. Again, they didn't send out review copies. It wouldn't have even been the correct one, which, I'm wondering what this would have got if it was the disc-based version and it wasn't fixed with a patch. Because that is the other thing I'll say, on the PS5 Pro, I didn't really have a lot of performance issues that were as noticeable. Like someone was saying it was 20 some odd frames. I didn't see that at all, okay, with the PS5 Pro. But if it had been that case on the disc-based version, would we have seen something in the 30s? Maybe. I mean, this is almost mind's eye territory, almost. The Final Fantasy mind's eye, I guess, almost. Anyway, it coming in at a 57, that's only on 6 critic reviews because people had to pick it up the same day, start playing it, probably try to just beeline the game as fast as they can to get a review out, and most of these just dropped yesterday, with IGN Spain giving it a 70, Critical Hits giving it a 60, and a few others coming in with a 50 and a 40, and then the user score is just getting blasted at this point. So yeah, I mean, you probably shouldn't buy this one. It's just a lower quality game. You know what it kind of reminds me of is that straight to DVD B movie that if you find on like a whim for $5 or something in one of those bargain bins, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, this is that terrible movie, but it was so bad at times it was good. It was like a comedy when it wasn't trying to be one. That's kind of what this is at times, with like I said, I think a pretty good action style gameplay that just falls short just about everywhere else. Although the soundtrack was pretty cool too from some of the stuff I was playing, but that's about it. Not a great story. The visuals aren't very good, and then the voice acting is distractingly bad. And then you see a kid get kicked through a crate in the first 10 minutes. That at least got people noticing on social media when I posted that. But there we have it. Lost Soul Aside, probably want to wait for that straight to DVD price that you could pick up on a Friday night and get a couple hours out of in a laugh. And before we go to the comments of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, you can pick one of these franchises to close out the next direct with a brand new title. Which one do you want to see the most? Wow, 3D Mario was leading the way there, 38%. That's ahead of 3D Zelda at 34%, then Smash Brothers, then Animal Crossing. I understand why with Mario though, because we've had Breath of the Wild came out before Mario Odyssey, I understand, but we had Tears of the Kingdom a few years ago. it feels like we're long overdue for a 3D Mario. I mean, we're going back to Odyssey towards the end of 2017. It's been that long. So yes, I know we had Donkey Kong Bonanza, and that had like glimmers of Odyssey in there. People look at it and go, yeah, the Odyssey, part of the Odyssey team definitely worked on this, but it's still not the next big 3D Mario that people are still calling Odyssey 2, but I'm not so sure about that. It could be a whole different Mario game, right? Different 3D Mario game, different franchise along with that. And they do something completely different. And that's what I hope it is, like completely. New art style, everything, new mechanics, and just see what they can come up with after really being quiet for almost 8 years now. So yeah, let's see what they have. If they close out with a big 3D Mario game, and then they talk about the big 40th anniversary that's right around the corner, I think that would line up perfectly, especially with the Mario movie coming out next year. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as we're seeing here. This is from Figure Drawing saying, if I had a choice between Sony making another handheld versus making more first-party games, give me the games. So here's the thing, you really don't have to choose between either one because they're two different departments, and that's the thing that can kind of throw people off because it is really hard to sync up software releases and hardware. I think that's become very clear for us throughout the last generation or so. As these development cycles have gotten longer and longer, it feels like the generations have to become longer as well. Or you have that more pronounced cross-gen period where you can keep supporting the system that you started development on 6 years ago, but oh yeah, here comes the PS5, or PS6, so you're gonna get PS5 and PS6 games, you're gonna get the same PS4 and PS5 game, that longer cross-gen. It's difficult to line these up completely, especially when it sounds like Mark Cerny is just full speed ahead right now with AMD, and Sony's lagging a bit on the software side, probably because these live service bets haven't exactly panned out for them, and you've had some pivots behind the scenes. So I'd love to say that we would have everything start to sync up a bit better, but who knows with how unpredictable things are, especially on the software side. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed last week's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card. Or maybe you want to hear about how insanely easy it is to hack a PlayStation 4 right now in 2025 after a recent breakthrough. I covered all of that in a video that I posted over the weekend, and I'll leave that right below it. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.